Before we get into this week's video, I'd just like to say a quick thank you to everyone who's helped us reach 1,000 subscribers. We really appreciate all your support. Now let's get into this week's video. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards, and in today's video we're going to be focusing on small-sided games, which is going to be focusing around training without a goalkeeper. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be focusing on a small-sided game, which is going to be dribbling focused. Okay, then part 2 is going to be focused on receiving skills and possession, and the third part is going to be focusing on quick-fire attacks. Okay, so it's all going to be without a goalkeeper. So we're focusing on high-intense drills, okay, that can be done without a goalkeeper. But if you do have goalkeepers, it's easily adjustable to then add goalkeepers in where we're going to have end zones and where we're going to have different areas on the pitch that we'll talk about in each part of the session. But before we get into it, let's have a look at how many players we've got this week and the equipment that we'll be using. So in terms of players, we're going with 12 outfield players. That's usually the average what most people get in terms of a group, whether it's you're working with under 8s, under 10s, 12s, 14s, etc. The average number that people tend to get is 12. If you have more, that's fine. We can just increase, obviously, the teams in here. Let's say you had 15 players, you know, have 3 groups of 5 in the start here, and then it's the same as that in terms of all different ones. So if you had 3 more players, if you had 4 more players, just try and even the teams out as much as you can. In terms of the setup for this part of the session, okay, the 2 zones in here, which are going to be the dribbling areas, are going to be 20 yards each. The middle area here is going to be 10 yards, and these 2 end zones can just be 5 yards, okay? In terms of the equipment, quite simple this week. We're looking just to use balls, bibs, and cones, and then, if you can as well, using poles. So it's an alternative to small-sided goals. So if you don't have small-sided goals, you can use the poles if you have them. If not, again, it can just be cones. So in terms of the width in here as well, we're just going to go 30 yards of width. Again, that can be increased or decreased based on the age group and the number of players that you have. But in terms of dribbling, we need to give the players some space to be able to dribble into. So these areas here, if you're working with older players, you might look to increase that a little bit more. But we're not focusing on a 20-yard dribble. We're focusing on a player receiving it, you know, 5 yards from the line here and dribbling through, or a player maybe receiving it in the middle and driving through into space. So there's going to be very rare that a player will dribble 20 yards in a straight line. Okay, so it's about receiving the ball to drive into space. So how it's going to work is we're splitting our group into 3. So we have a 4v4 in here and 4 players waiting to defend. So the ball will get played into the Blues. They're looking to manoeuvre the ball, okay, into an area where they can then play into space. Okay, so a player can receive in space and drive into the middle area here. Okay, so once their players have driven into here, okay, these 4 yellows just stay in there ready to defend again. The Blues are then looking to attack this back 4, okay? So every time they drive into the middle, that's 1 goal, and then if they drive to the other end, that's another goal. So then they're looking to drive at space. So once they broke that first line of pressure, okay, they're looking to attack this back 4 a little bit quicker, whereas this is if we're breaking through the midfield third, okay, and then we're breaking through the defensive third. Okay, so if you have goalkeepers in this area, it could be you're just looking to dribble into the middle third, and then after that, there could be a goal here and a goal there, and you're looking to attack the goal as quickly as you can. So that's a simple alternative. So then we're focusing a little bit more on our support runs, because in that final third, a bit more creativity, okay, improvisation, and our support runs can be a little bit more free-roamed. Instead of in that middle third, we're trying to protect the space behind us in a game as well. So we could get players moving on the overlap, players providing width, players just trying to stretch the play to receive in here, ball goes in there, and if we dribble into the space in there, we score. The ball will then start with the coach again, okay, and then the Greens will look to protect that space. The Blues will start in here, okay, and then they'll look to go back the other side. So if the Greens win the ball in here, they're just looking to drive into there, so they're winning the ball high to score, okay. If the Blues get through the Greens again, their pressure, okay, into the middle third, and then they get into where the yellows are here, into this final third, the Blues are then looking to attack that area again. But in terms for the yellows, if they win the ball back in here, okay, they're looking to get the ball into midfield third. That means their transition's complete then, okay? They're now in possession of the ball, and then they'll go and attack the other third. But if the yellows win the ball in this area here, for the Blues, it's can they look to counter press. Okay, so if the yellow wins the ball in here, can they look to get around the ball quickly, win it back, and then the aim is still to score in there. Okay, so we're trying to increase the players' confidence on the ball, okay, composure and attacking at speed, our movements both on and off the ball, and being confident driving into space. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Now moving into part 2 of this week's session, we're now focusing on a small side of the game, which is focusing on our receiving skills to then open out and move forward. Okay, so in terms of the setup for this part of the session, we're going 40 yards of depth and 40 yards of width. Again, based on your numbers and what's the space that you can use, you can increase or decrease that. So we're having 10 yards in the middle, okay, for this middle area in here. So then 15 yards either side, 15 yards either side. And then these two areas in here, the receiving zones, these are only quite small. So you're just looking 5 yards in terms of depth and 5 yards in terms of width. So there's plenty of room still for the players in there. So you're still looking for another 20 yards across from there. And then you've still got another 20 yards across as well. So we don't want it to be too big because we want the players to have to think quickly, okay, not having to take too many touches. There's going to be lots of transitions and it's encouraging the movement. So what the players are looking to do, so the team in possession has to play through the central player who can rotate. This player can move in, this player can move out. Have to play through the central player before they go and score in one of the 4 goals in there, okay? So once they play through, okay, they then go to attack one of these. They have to receive the ball in here as well, not dribble. Just so that when this player receives the ball here, they're not just going to drive it in, not under pressure. They're then looking for movement from other players. But what we're trying to do is play in to then go and attack the other way. So then if the player gets the ball here and plays out, we're looking for those runs into space to go and attack. Once they've got the ball in one of the boxes, they're then looking to do the same thing, but go in the opposite way, okay? So players pushing up, it's then receiving that ball. They've got to play into the middle player before then getting the ball out and then looking to go and attack another box. So once they've attacked one side, we're looking for players to go and attack the other side. But if it comes to it and let's say they receive the ball in here, they play in into the middle, it gets played out, a player can make a run into that area there and receive the ball, okay? Because it's down to the team out's possession to be pressing that area. So if there's no option further up there, can we keep the ball switching? Okay, can we keep the ball moving across the pitch, waiting for gaps to open? And then in terms of the greens, they are allowed in and around this middle box, but they can't defend in it, okay? So they can obviously try and cut the passions options out in there. So it could be that the Blues in here have 2 wide options, okay? They have players on the ball here, and the Greens are just looking to stop that ball going in, shuffling across, okay, being compact, shuffling across again, being compact, making it difficult for the Blues. So they're looking for those quick openings to play in, okay? And then when that middle player receives the ball, they're looking to open out. So the trigger for that is to then push up higher up the pitch so we can receive that ball, get our support runs, and then look to play in. So every time that they play through and then go and score in one of the, then receive the ball in one of the wider boxes, the team can get a point. As soon as we transition, so let's say the ball goes into the Greens, they look to get a player in the middle, okay? The blue player comes out and they're looking to do the same thing, receiving that middle area, okay, look to play out. Can we get willing runners up the pitch? Okay, is this what we're trying to do? That's why I was saying about not just dribbling, but receiving that ball so players are moving on and off the ball, and then we're transitioning to go the other way. So how can we then create the space? So we're focusing on that movement to receive the ball. Once we play the ball, not standing still, okay? So can we get support runs out wide? Can we get support runs higher up the pitch? So not all cramped in one area. Ball can be played in, played out, so we're getting that communication and organisation. Players making those runs into space to then score. So the team out's possession is trying to contain that space, but when the ball goes into that middle player, okay, can we look to go and score quickly? We will now move into our next animation before moving on to the final part of this week's session. Okay, so moving into the final part of this week's session, we're now focusing on a small-sided game, which is going to be basing around attacking the goal quickly. Okay, so in terms of the setup, this again just depends on the age group, the amount of space that you've got, the amount of players that you've got. So what we're going to go with now is a 40 by 40 box again, split into 20 by 20. So 20, 20, 20, 20. Okay, so each team is going to have 4 players locked in the zones here. So a blue and a green in here, a blue and a green in here. Okay, each team's going to have 2 players who are free to move everywhere. Okay, so that's where they can look to get those overloads to score. So it's kind of what we're trying to focus on is that movement, okay, to support, receive. Okay, so focusing on the receiving skills, attack quickly, so in tight areas. So then what we're looking at is, can we get our support from our midfield players to the player in possession? So in terms of the Blues are going to attack vertically and the Greens are going to attack horizontally. So when they win the ball back here, so if the Blues are attacking this goal here and the Greens win it back, okay, so you can still have 2 players defending, just got to stay in their areas. Okay, they're then looking to get the ball into this player here to then attack there. They'll then get the ball off a coach around this area, and then they'll look to attack this goal so it can get played in, get a player here and attack. So it's all about how quick we can transition, okay, our reaction to attacking one side to then defend another side. So if the Blues have got the ball, like we just said there, and you've got 2 players moving into space, these players are up just in case of transition, and also if they win the ball, they want to attack this space in here. If the Greens then win it to stop it from going in, then what are we looking for? Okay, the Blues to prevent those options towards goal quickly. Okay, so they're narrowing off there, So then it's more difficult for the Greens to get on it, where then they've got players who can move in and out of the middle areas. Okay, so that's where they're trying to get their overloads, and the other players are obviously trying to receive the ball. So if they do get it into this area here, then they can look to score. Coach plays into the Greens again, go and attack the other side. So the players who can move freely have got to provide that movement to receive the ball kind of in between the lines, and the players around that are trying to provide that support to play through quickly, and then we can look to attack the goal. So this is perfect for obviously having no goalkeepers. Let's say you had 2 goalkeepers, you could have one team attacking with goalkeepers, and one team attacking without goalkeepers. Okay, so you could have the Blues attacking with keepers, the Greens attacking without keepers, and you could do a transition drill up. If the Greens won the ball and scored into one of the goals, they can then get the ball and then go and attack the goalkeepers there. Or it can be that when you transition, could be the Blues attack one way, Greens attack the other. When you win the ball, you have to score through one of the side goals before then going to attack. So progression can be, once the players understanding, is that they're not locked into their zones anymore, but we're trying to then make sure that the players aren't all just crying around the ball, especially the younger age groups. So locking them into these zones with just having 2 players who are free to move, okay, increases that movement, increases the focus, okay, and the concentration and their awareness. And then when they're receiving the ball, it's those receiving skills. Where's our support around the player, okay, that communication, and then that intensity and tempo to move the ball quickly, to get into an area, to then look to score. Ball then comes in again. Can we look to create that space? Can we combine with our 2 players being able to move freely to then score again? So for the team out of possession, it's trying not to allow too many goals in at once. For the team in possession, it's about penetrating that space quickly, okay, and scoring as many goals as we can by doing all of the things that we've just mentioned. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. Don't forget to head over to our website where you can sign up to view all of our exclusive content. And we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.